My husband called me an embarrassment, and my sister offered me charity after the will left me with a worthless shack. They were so busy celebrating their victory that they never considered why my geologist father would leave me that specific piece of land. My inheritance wasn't the ruin they saw. It was a $15 million treasure and a perfectly laid trap, which I was about to spring at my sister's own charity gala. My name is Lily Carter, and I'm about to tell you how a crumbling house in Montana made me $12 million richer than my golden child sister. 6 months ago, I sat in a mahogany-paneled law office, watching my husband choose his seat next to my sister. Emma, not me. The will reading that followed should have destroyed me. Emma inherited our parents' $2 million Victorian mansion. I got a rotting shack in the middle of nowhere. My husband threw my suitcase on our lawn that very night, telling me not to return until I'd claimed what we deserved. But what I found in that abandoned house's basement changed everything. It all started with a phone call from my parents' lawyer. The law office of Henderson and Associates occupied the top floor of Helena's oldest building. I arrived in my 2015 Honda Civic, its paint oxidizing despite my best efforts. Emma's white Tesla Model S was already parked in the visitor spot. Inside, she sat cross-legged in a leather chair, her Hermes Birkin bag placed deliberately where everyone could see it. The burnt orange leather probably cost more than my annual teaching salary. Lily, my husband, David, barely acknowledged me before turning back to Emma. We were just discussing the estate's potential value. I took the only remaining seat, a straight-backed chair near the door, and watched them whisper. David had positioned himself between us, a choice that felt deliberate. Mr. Henderson entered, carrying a surprisingly thin folder. Behind him, a portrait of my parents dominated the wall. Mom with her teaching awards, Dad with his geological survey equipment. They'd been killed in a car accident 3 months ago. Shall we begin? Henderson's eyes lingered on me with an expression I couldn't quite place. Sympathy, or was it anticipation? Emma finally looked up. Let's get this over with. Some of us have actual responsibilities. Her influencer career was clearly more demanding than my job teaching art to underprivileged teenagers. 3 months. That's all it had been. While Emma had posted a black and white photo of herself at their grave, garnering over 100,000 likes, I'd been the one sorting through their belongings, writing thank you cards, and handling the 1,000 small decisions that death demands. Before we begin, Henderson cleared his throat. I should mention that your parents updated their will just 6 months ago. Emma's head snapped up. Henderson spread photos across his desk. The first showed the Victorian mansion, the crown jewel of Helena's historic district, worth at least $2 million. The second was a blurry photo of a wooden structure barely visible through overgrown pines. The property at 48 Mountain Ridge Road, Whitefish, Henderson said carefully. Emma laughed. God, that place. Dad bought it 20 years ago, didn't he? Some failed investment. The road isn't even paved for the last 10 miles, David added, looking at Google Maps on his phone. Well, Emma said, fingering a Tiffany necklace that had belonged to our mother. We all know who's getting what. Mom always said I had the eye for real estate. Henderson's assistant entered with a tea service, his hands trembling slightly. The lawyer kept glancing at me, as if waiting for something. Shall I read the will now? He asked. Robert Carter and I, Margaret Carter, do hereby bequeath our earthly possessions as follows, Henderson began. To our daughter, Emma Catherine Carter Whitfield, we leave the family home at 1420 Mansion Avenue, Helena, Montana. Emma's smile could have powered the city. To our daughter, Lily Marie Carter, we leave the property at 48 Mountain Ridge Road, Whitefish, Montana. Silence. Then David shot to his feet. This is insulting. Lily devoted everything to them, and they leave her some shack. Oh, Lily, I'm so sorry, Emma said, her voice dripping with false pity. But honestly, Mom and Dad knew who could handle real responsibility. She turned to our assembled cousins. It's not personal, it's practical. There's more to the will, Henderson continued, but Emma waved him off. What more could there be? Lily, listen. I'll give you $50,000 from the house sale. Call it a sister's gift. But the lawyer wasn't finished. His eyes met mine as he quietly slid a sealed envelope across the desk to me. There's also this, Mrs. Carter, to be opened only at the property. My fingers closed around it. It felt heavy. David snatched it from me. "What's this?" "Another humiliation." "That's for Lily to open at the property," Henderson said sharply. "Those were your parents' specific instructions." The drive home was silent, except for David's angry exhales. He didn't speak until we pulled into our driveway. "Your parents always knew, didn't they?" he seethed. "Knew you were a failure. You're 35 years old, teaching finger painting to teenagers while your sister built an empire." He went to the closet and started throwing my clothes into a suitcase. "You want to know what Emma texted me? She offered me a position at her management company. Marketing director. 6 figures. You've been texting with my sister? Someone has to think about our future," he sneered. "You're an embarrassment, Lily." He dragged the suitcase to the front door and threw it onto the porch. "Go to that shack in Whitefish. Figure out how to contest the will or convince Emma to trade. I don't care. Just don't come back until you've gotten what we deserve." He closed the door. I heard the deadbolt turn. I stood in the rain, suitcase at my feet, the sealed envelope in my pocket, and for the first time in years, I felt something besides resignation. I felt curious. The drive north to Whitefish was an 8-hour journey into the unknown. Radio stations faded to static, cell service disappeared, and the last 10 miles of road were unpaved ruts through dense forest. I finally arrived at a rusted mailbox hanging by one screw, number 48. The driveway was a quarter-mile of overgrown grass that scraped the underside of my Honda. And then I saw it. Emma had been generous calling it a shack. The 100-year-old structure listed precariously, its roof collapsed, its siding weathered to gray. I threw my shoulder against the front door to force it open. Inside, dust rose in thick clouds. Bats erupted from a hole in the ceiling. The floorboards felt soft with rot. I made it to what had been a living room before the tears came, body-shaking sobs that echoed off the broken walls. This was my reward. This ruin. As I wiped my eyes, I noticed something odd in the dust. Footprints, recent ones, leading to a corner where the floorboards looked newer. Then I remembered the envelope. I tore it open. An antique copper key fell out, along with a single sheet of paper in my father's precise handwriting. "Lily, my observant daughter. The real treasure requires vision, the kind you've always had. Look where others wouldn't bother. Love, Dad. P.S. You always saw what Emma missed." I followed the footprints to the new floorboards. I pried one up, revealing not a hiding spot, but a trapdoor with modern, industrial-grade hinges. Not 100 years old. Behind a loose board in the bedroom wall, I found another lock, an antique one that matched the copper key. Inside was a waterproof metal box. It held a USB drive, a rolled document, and another note from Dad. "The basement isn't a basement. Your grandfather knew. I knew. And now you know. The basement wasn't a basement. It was a mine." I used my phone's flashlight to descend the metal rungs into the darkness. 10 feet down, my feet hit stone. A tunnel stretched ahead, shored up with new timber beams. Narrow-gauge railroad tracks ran along the floor. The walls sparkled in my light, veins of blue-green copper. 50 feet in, the tunnel opened into a chamber with modern lanterns, surveying equipment, and a metal lockbox. The document from Dad's hidden box was a geological survey from Morrison Mining Corporation, dated 6 months ago. The summary made me sit down on a crate. Estimated copper reserves, $12.2 million. The lockbox contained contracts, all dated 5 years ago, signed by me. I'd never seen them before. Or had I? Dad had asked me to sign property tax papers back then. I'd trusted him. But these weren't tax papers. They were mining rights assignments, making me the sole owner of all mineral rights for the property. Emma's name was nowhere. A sticky note from Dad read, "Emma would sell to the first bidder. You'll know what to do. James Morrison is waiting for your call." My parents hadn't disinherited me. They'd hidden $12 million where Emma, in her arrogance, would never think to look. Back in the house, I found a portable generator. The USB drive booted up on my laptop, and my parents appeared on screen. "Lily," my mom said, her voice making my chest tight, "if you're watching this, then we're gone, and you found what we left you. 5 years ago." Dad picked up. "I found the copper vein. We bought the mineral rights immediately, but kept it secret. Emma sees dollar signs, not legacy. But you, Lily, you understand that wealth isn't just money. It's what you do with it." They explained everything. The contracts I'd signed transferred the mineral rights to me alone. The will had a special clause. If anyone tried to force me to give up my inheritance through coercion or fraud, they would lose their own. "We know Emma will try," Dad said quietly. "And we suspect David will, too." The video ended with Mom saying, "You were never less than Lily. You were always more. We love you." I drove back towards cell service and called the number on the contract. "Lily Carter?" A warm voice answered. "I've been expecting your call. James Morrison. Your father said you'd need time." "Mr. Morrison, the survey says 12 million. Conservative estimate. Could be 15, he chuckled. "Your father was thorough. Has Emma contacted me?"
"Oh, yes.
"About 50 times. She found out about the mine 2 months ago, but she doesn't know you own the rights. She's been trying to buy what she can't legally sell." He grew serious. "Lily, there's a time limit. The contract specifies 6 months from the will reading before the rights revert to the estate. That's 2 weeks from now. And be careful. Emma and someone named David have been asking about power of attorney forms." Henderson's email came that night. "Your sister has filed to contest the will. Your husband has submitted paperwork claiming power of attorney, citing mental distress. I've rejected both." Attached were emails between Emma and David, dated 3 weeks before the will reading. "Once Lily gets the worthless property," Emma had written, "you convince her to sign it over. I'll make it worth your while." 500K, David's reply. "She trusts me. Give me a week." Henderson had also attached Section 47B of the will, the poison pill clause. "If Emma tried to steal my inheritance and I could prove it, she'd lose everything. My parents hadn't just protected me, they'd set a trap." Emma was hosting a charity gala in 10 days. It would be the perfect venue. The Helena Country Club had been transformed into Emma's vision of charity, crystal chandeliers and champagne fountains. She stood at the entrance in an Oscar de la Renta gown. The moment she saw me, her smile froze. "Lily, I didn't think you'd come." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, holding up my briefcase. "I brought some documents about Mom and Dad's legacy." David appeared, his face cycling through surprise, anger, then forced charm. "Lily, we need to talk." "We do," I said, moving past him into the ballroom. Publicly, 200 of Helena's elite mingled. The mayor, state senators, journalists. Perfect. Emma followed me. Damage control activated. "My sister Lily has joined us," she announced. "Tonight's charity in our parents' honor means everything to our family." "Actually," I said, my voice carrying across the quieted room, "I have an announcement about the Carter family inheritance." I walked to the microphone. "This isn't appropriate," Emma hissed. "I teach youth arts," I said loudly. "This is our parents' event. I think our guests would love to hear about their final wishes." I reached the microphone. "As many of you know, at the will reading, my sister inherited a $2 million mansion, while I received a crumbling shack in Whitefish." I clicked a remote, and a photo of the ruin appeared on the screen behind me. "But my father was a geologist," I continued, "and that worthless shack sits on $15 million of copper reserves." Emma went white. David's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "You knew," I said to Emma. "You've known for 2 months. You hired an investigator. You conspired with my husband to defraud me, offering him $500,000 to get my signature." I held up their emails. The crowd gasped. "Even if that's true," Emma said, her voice sharp, "the property is yours. No harm done." "Actually," Mr. Henderson said, stepping forward with the will, "significant harm was attempted, and your parents anticipated it." He opened the sealed section. Section 47B, the forfeiture clause. If any beneficiary attempts to obtain another's inheritance through fraud, they forfeit their own inheritance entirely. Emma swayed. "What?" "Under the terms of your parents' will, you have forfeited the Victorian mansion. It transfers to Lily immediately." The room erupted. Henderson presented the evidence, the emails, the falsified power of attorney, the backdated transfer documents. James Morrison stood. "Morrison Mining has recordings of 53 calls from Ms. Carter Whitfield attempting to purchase rights she did not own. That's fraud." Emma's composure shattered. "Mom and Dad wouldn't do this to me. They did it for you," I said quietly. to teach you that actions have consequences. The screen behind me changed to show another bank statement. Dozens of small transfers from my mother's account to Emma's, totaling nearly $100,000, made years ago. They forgave you for this, I said. But they didn't forget. The will was their way of protecting me from your greed, and you from yourself. Emma collapsed into a chair, her social media empire imploding in real time as guests began live tweeting the drama. David ran to her, but it was over. Henderson handed me the transfer documents for the mansion. I signed them in front of everyone. One more thing, I announced into the microphone. The Victorian mansion will become the Carter Arts Retreat for underprivileged youth. The mining profits will fund free art programs throughout Montana. My parents didn't leave me wealth to hoard. They left it to share. The room erupted in a standing ovation. As I left the gala, my parents' final letter was read to me by Henderson. Dearest Lily, if you're reading this, you stood your ground. We're proud of you. Emma got our beauty and charm. You got our depth and strength. One is easier to see. The other is infinitely more valuable. Build something beautiful. 6 months later, the Carter Arts Retreat opened its doors. 20 students, all from backgrounds that would have excluded them from Emma's gala, carried their art supplies into the Victorian mansion. Emma was working as a receptionist at a dental office. David had moved back to Ohio. The mining operation had begun, and its profits were funding art programs in 12 Montana schools. I still taught at Jefferson High, still drove the Honda. The real inheritance wasn't the copper. It was the lesson. When everyone sees worthless, look closer. When life hands you ruins, check the basement.